Welcome back to the Sensible Mama podcast. I am Paulina Westcott, your host. Very happy to be with you today. Before we get started, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share it with a mama that you think might enjoy it. My guest today is somebody that I've known for many, many years. Her name is Mary Elizabeth. She is a mom of two, a grandmother of two with a third on the way. She's an entrepreneur. She owns a jewelry business. And she and I had a lovely conversation recently about how, for some people, it can be very stressful to think about parenting. Parenting can be very daunting, very overwhelming. It's a big responsibility where you're responsible for, how these kids are going to turn out. Are they going to be successful? Are they going to be smart? What do I need to make sure that they have or don't have to live a good life? And we had a really, really cool conversation. And so we thought we'd hop on a podcast, have a conversation about it. And so here we are. Hello, Mary Elizabeth.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
It's a pleasure. So you have two children, girls, right?
I do.
Both girls.
Both girls. One
And
is married, and she has two kids, and she's pregnant with her third. And the other is a horse trainer.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your kids are, they're very successful, well-rounded, intelligent, good people. And I don't think that was by accident.
It wasn't by accident. I don't think. It was really important to me to, be the mother. And it's so funny because my mom, would always say, I'm not your friend, I'm your mother. And I wasn't trying to be my kid's friend. I wanted to be the role of a mother. And, it's a big responsibility. I mean, what we're doing is we are creating the future. It's in our hands. And it's so funny when I sometimes see a kid and they're running around and parents like, oh, he's so crazy, he's so this. I think there's our future. We don't want the kid that's just sitting at the picnic table like this. We want the kid that's out there and, not being a brat or anything, but we want our children to be vocal and be interested. So that was always kind of my point of view, raising my kids.
I think that's very smart. And it's funny because parenting is fairly new to me. I have my oldest just turned 4 a couple days ago.
Wow.
But he's at this age where he's like really starting to show who he is. I mean, it starts, I think, around 2 years old. But man, he is interested and he's smart. And I'm like watching the way he figures stuff out. And it's really interesting. Sometimes I think the biggest hurdle that I have to overcome is getting out of his way.
Right.
Where like he's learning to do something, he's figuring out, like he's building something, right? Like we were literally just upstairs. He's got these little things that like clip onto each other that you can build little shapes and stuff. And he's building something and he's trying to build a specific thing. And I know how I would do it. And I'm watching him do it and I'm like, oh, he's not going to get there, right? But I'm like, I muzzle myself where I'm like, what is that going to do? What constructive thing is it going to do to be like, no, that's not how I would do it. Who cares how I would do it? I'm not trying to raise him to be me. I'm trying to raise him to be him. And he figured it out and he made a mistake and he fixed it and then he did this and then he ended up making something totally different than what I would have done, but it still worked. And I was like, that, like you said, like that is the future. Somebody who can think outside the box, somebody who doesn't think like everybody else, somebody who doesn't just follow patterns and social, training or whatever, but somebody who can actually have a creative thought, figure out, overcome obstacles, figure out problems, and persist until they get a product. And I'm like, it was a very silly, like he was literally trying to make the letter R out of this little, doohickey. But it was like this profound moment for me where I was like, good thing I didn't say anything,
Right. That's right. And it's so important to let our children contribute. I used to have a niece that would come over and she was just this little thing. And I would have paper towels and the Windex ready. She loved to do windows. Now, did she do them great? No, I always had to redo them. But I always let her come over because I one time did it and she loved it. My kids, I wanted them to contribute. And it's important for a child to contribute, to feel that they are part of that. And all you have to do is tell them how wonderful they've done, and they just want to do more of it. That's what I found. You
It's
know,
actually so interesting you say that. I made an observation very similar to this. This was like maybe half a year ago. I was having some trouble with same kid, the oldest one. And he was just getting so cranky and he would like act up and whatever, and I'm like, nothing changed, like diet is the same. Like maybe he's going through a growth spurt or whatever. But I think it was probably around the age of 3 where it really started showing up. He would turn into a little monster when and only when I stopped him from helping. The problem is sometimes I didn't know I was doing it. It's not obvious. It's not like you coming up to me and being like, "Oh, let me help you wash the dishes," or,
right,
"Oh, you've got, a piece of something on your shirt, let me take it off for you." Like an adult to an adult, the help is very obvious because we're kind of used to what help feels like at this stage of our
right,
lives. For a kid, we think, like him carrying some breakable glass something to the table, to me, doesn't look a lot like help. It looks like a really scary, dangerous situation, but if I don't
right,
let him do it, he thinks that I don't want him to help me, and that's when he gets mad. Or he's opening the door to the house, and I'm like, goodness gracious, please stop doing that. Like, it's cold, close the door. But he heard me say that I wanted to leave. And now I'm thinking I need to leave in like 10 minutes, but he heard me say that I want to leave to go
right,
to the store, and so he's opening the door for me. So in his calculation, he's helping me do what I'm trying to do, and then I'm yelling at him for not opening the door, and he's like, "This woman is crazy. She's saying she wants something. I'm trying to help her get there, and then she's screaming at me because I'm doing what I thought she wanted to have happen." You know what I mean? And it's a bit of a mind trick to like put yourself into the kid's world from his or her point of view. What does it look
yeah,
like from his point of view? And it's a totally different story. And when I recognized that all of these fits happened almost one for one, with the exception of like when he's like super overtired or overhungry, which is another topic, was every time I got in the way of his perceived effort to help me or someone else.
yeah, yeah. It's not always easy to let a kid help. It's actually, I think it's harder than just, of course it's harder than just doing it, right? Because we're busy, we've got a lot of things going on as moms and what we're doing and getting out of the house. It's like, oh, great, but we got to do it. And it's funny, I see often where children are out like late at night or 8 o'clock at night and they're upset. You mentioned, your kid is only upset during those times or maybe when they're tired. And I see sometimes when kids are just out late and it is not that kid's fault. That kid needs food and that kid needs to go to sleep, and it doesn't matter that we need to go shopping. We're going to have that with the kid when the kid has to, get the sleep and the food, and we just can't, be out there because it's good for our schedule. And that's a pain in the neck, but it makes for a happy home. Just a happy
Yeah.
home, you know?
It's also good to like recognize, like I know when it's late at night and we're, bedtime got pushed back an hour or something, and we're like wrestling these tiny little crocodiles into their pajamas and they're like kicking and screaming. It's a lot easier for me to keep my cool when I realize that this isn't him.
Right,
He's not being a little brat to be a little brat. He's being a little brat
right.
because his body has shut down an hour ago and he needs to be
Totally.
sleeping. And so for me to like, ooh, like, okay, just a deep breath. He's not trying to like rip off my face, it's just purely genetic, hormonal, whatever, whatever's going on with the body, that's all it is. And then he wakes up in the morning well rested, and like the little one wakes up yesterday morning and he opens his eyes, ding, and he looks over and he wraps his arms around my face and he goes, "Mama, I love you too much." And I was like, well, there you go. That's the real kid. That's the one that, I thought
Yeah.
was trying to end my life last night, but no.
Yeah, and it's a lot to juggle. It's not like I didn't ever not do that, you know, but you do that a couple times and you go, that I'm not going to do again. That was unpleasant, do you know? And it's unpleasant for others because they don't know what's going on and what's happening out there. So it's interesting, you know, what a mom has to juggle, and it's a beautiful thing to juggle that, you know, and get what we get. You know, my grandson was over yesterday and I was blow drying my hair, and he said to me, Mimi, you're beautiful. I thought, where the heck did it? He's 2 years old. Where did he come up with that? You know, that's just so, you know, it makes it all melt, right?
100, like, million%, if that's a thing. Like, when a kid gives you a compliment, there's no agenda. You know what I mean?
Right.
With adults, there's, like I said, like, there's like social trainings and kind of expectations, and oh, you look nice. Oh, you look nice too. You know what I mean? And you know, you know genuine people, but it's easy to, you know, fall into the trap of just saying the things socially. A kid, I remember I used to work at a company where we did like phonics curriculum with inner city kids in Philadelphia. And this little girl, she must have been like 6 years old, comes up to me one day and she goes, Miss, you look like a Disney princess, and runs off. And I was like, literally best compliment I've ever gotten in my life. Ever. Like, my husband's still busy here too, you know?
And it's, you know, when it comes out of their mouths like that, it's, you know, it's such innocence and it's such truth to them. Do you know? It's just
Absolutely.
a beautiful thing.
So good.
I just think it's been, you know, it's the greatest gift. I always tell people when they're pregnant, you know, you have no idea the love that you're going to experience. You think you love your husband, which of course you love your husband, but when you have that child, there's just a love you have no idea what you're going to expect. And I always tell pregnant mothers, there is so many opinions out there, and I could give you so much advice, but the only advice I will tell you is that we were made to have babies. It's what our body does. Do not let anybody tell you how hard this is or how to me, giving birth it's a magical mystery how it all happens. And there's so many women who get told all these things, and I'm like, it's what our bodies do. Do not worry about it. You know, it's a remarkable thing what happens to our bodies, you know?
It really is. So I became obsessed with it when I was pregnant the first time. I wanted to know everything about it. And the more I learned, the more I was like, wow, the design of this body is beyond incredible. Like, I don't think doctors understand the degree to which the body is capable of what it's capable of.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then with my second pregnancy, I just like leaned into the trust. My labor was so much fun with my second one. My first one was a little bit challenging because I was scared. My second one was wild, but super fun. Fun in the sense, like, it wasn't like a walk in the park, but like it was like a roller coaster ride, and I was hanging on for dear life, and I was having a great time with it. You know what I mean? But the reason that it was so joyful and so fun is because I like leaned into it. Every contraction, I was like, yeah, let's go. You know what I mean? And then even after you have your baby, your body knows what to do. Like,
Yeah.
this baby comes out knowing how to breathe when it hasn't breathed air, knowing how to nurse, sometimes needing a little bit of assistance. But like, you know, the best prescription that you could give a pregnant mom who's like struggling after, I mean, I'm saying this is not a doctor. This is just like passing comment,
Right.
disclaimer, you know, whatever. But skin to skin time with your baby. Just your baby on your chest in nothing but his or her diaper, snuggled up under a blanket, has so many medical and psychological benefits. It is unreal. Like,
Yeah.
I was at a postpartum visit recently. I'm a doula, I'm a birth doula now, and I was at a postpartum visit with my client, and she's like, she had a C-section. She's like, I'm in pain, everything hurts, I'm just in agony. My mom and I are fighting, you know, my baby sees me crying all the time. I don't want to be like this, blah, blah, blah. Like, she's like just not having a good time. And I was like,
Right.
well, how much skin to skin are you having? And she was like, like none. And I was like, okay, cool. So I'm gonna look away, undo your robe. We're gonna get the baby naked. Well, for the rest of this appointment, I just want you guys to snuggle. And she's like, okay. I stayed there for an hour talking, and at the end of the hour, I was like, all right, so how are you feeling? She's like, my pain is virtually gone. I feel calmer. He's been like sleeping on her. She was like, just kind of like, without even thinking about it, just like stroking his head. The baby was born 4 pounds, right? He was like, he was super preemie. And I could just see both of them just like, and I'm like, the baby just needs you. Your
Right.
child needs you. I have lists of like, toddler toys to buy and postpartum supplies you need and all this stuff, and all that is great. And it's all fun. And go ahead, go, make your baby registry and get all your things from Amazon and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, and it's so cliche, but it's so true, what your baby needs is for you to be present, for you to be happy, for you to be healthy. Like,
That's right.
that's it.
That's right. That's what the household needs. Do you know? I remember on Sunday nights, I was lucky to be able to stay home with my daughter. But on Sunday nights, I would watch Murder, She Wrote. From 6 to 7, I wanted no distractions. And she, she'd at first be here, and then she'd be longer and longer and longer on my body as she grew. But that was my hour of no one coming in and talking to me. And she just slept on me the whole time. It was just the funniest thing, but that was my calming time with my raspberry patch tea,
I love that, but it's so important. Like, I mean, with newborns, yes, I'm learning the same thing now with toddlers. I don't have experience with older kids. I'm sure you can, chime in, but the mom holds the house together. Dad can be the breadwinner, dad can be a lot of things, and dads play a role that moms cannot. My husband is incredible, and thank God my kids have him, like, truly. But a mom holds the house together, and if the mom is not, the mom is the glue, and if the glue can't do its job, the house will fall apart. So, like, mamas out there listening, if you're struggling, if you're like, putting yourself last, which is very easy to do, and I've been there and I've done it, and it's not good. Like, you have to realize that you've got to take care of yourself. And that can look like a lot of things. You know what I mean? Like, nutrition is obvious, sleep is obvious, hydration, yes. But also, like, give your kids to your husband for a second and go take a shower by yourself without the high chair in there,
Right.
Enjoy a scalding hot, shower, and take the extra time to shave, even if you're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, make yourself
Yeah.
feel put together. And I'm talking as a hypocrite because I definitely do spend some days just fully in my pajamas all day. But, like, get dressed in the morning, brush your hair. The difference that it makes, you know what I mean? If you have a ritual of having a cup of coffee every morning, don't skip your cup of coffee in the morning. You know what I mean? If it's you need some time to read a book at the end of the night, or like you said, like once a week, you just have your thing. That's good. That's okay. Like, if it makes you feel like you can stick the house back together, if it makes you feel a little stronger and a little bit more put together, it's worth it.
Yeah, it's important. It's important that the mom be supported. It's and the child sees the mom being supported. Do you know? It's funny because my mom would always say, "Your father and I are on the same page. They were just intuitively on the same page." There was 5 of us when I was growing up, and my husband and I have been pretty much on the same page. I was pretty much more the disciplinarian, although I didn't have to use a lot of discipline. And my husband would be like, "Yeah, it's okay. Let him do this. It's all right." And I'd be like, "That is not going to happen."
Sounds a lot
And I
like
think
what
that's
my
also good for a kid, as long as you're together on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You both need to have agreement on those things.
Yes, and there is some telepathic level of communication that also sometimes happens where, like, my husband is like having an idea and I'm like, we're
Don't
not,
say that.
I know what you're
Don't say
thinking.
that.
We're not doing that. And he goes, well, maybe another time. And I'm like, good. And vice versa, where sometimes I'm like, don't you? And he goes, he like looks at me, he's like, this time is the exception. But he doesn't say anything. He goes, let's just let him have this one. And I'm like, okay. And it's a mutual thing. Absolutely goes both ways.
Yeah, and it's good, I think, for parents to, if you find that you don't have that agreement, I mean, I would have to have talks with my husband and say, we have to be on the same page. You got to be on the same page. So how do we want to do this as a unit with our kids? Like my daughters at 13 wanted to go to the mall. All their friends were going to the mall, and I'm like, you're not going to the mall alone. And they were like, and I'm like, do it all you want. You're not going alone. But I will go with you, and I will sit at the mall. And I would we didn't do it often, but I would sit at the mall, and they could be there with their friends. But it was cut and dry, and that was a way I was raised. Things had to be cut and dry, so a child knows really what are the plans here. You got to stay consistent from yesterday to today. That's an important thing that
Agreed.
They know that, And they knew they could never go to the mall on their own. That was just not something that was going to happen. I didn't care what friend was doing whatever, That was, I think, was a successful action in raising my kids. That and just really, I remember one time my daughter, oh my gosh, she was so young. She was like 6 or 7 or I don't know, 7 or 8. And I said, honey, there's going to be a time when you are going to be mad at mommy and you're not going to want to talk to mommy. But it's important that we work that through. And she said, Mommy, I will never be mad at you. If only I had recorded that, But one thing, we really did was we communicated. And it's okay. It's okay for your kid to have a point of view different than yours. That's all right. I didn't want my kids to be Mary Elizabeth. I wanted them to be Paige and Angelica. That's who I got. I didn't want them to be mini me's,
Yeah.
So we had a strong bond of communication. And there'd be times they'd be mad, and it's an interesting world. I remember, I don't know if I want to go this far astray, but I remember one time my daughter coming home and saying to me, I'm going to call 911 on you. And I was like, hold up, what just happened here? And she said, well, we learned that at school today. And I said, really? What did you learn? And they said, well, if there's a problem at home, we can call 911. And I was like, huh. So it's important. This is at least in California. It's important that you read every piece of paper that comes home. But how I handled it was I said, honey, you can certainly call 911 if you really feel you need to do that. But I just want to explain to you what 911 is going to be like. You'll be taken out of the house. You'll be in a bedroom with probably 3 or 4 bunk beds. And you won't have all the things you have in your room here. So if you think something occurred, you can do that. And that was the end of it. So I didn't get all riled up and defensive about the whole thing. I was like, where the heck is this coming from?
Yeah.
We got to find out, where is this coming from? Because there are outside influences. There was an influence that said, the school is your family. And I said, the school is not your family. Your family is at home with mommy and daddy and your sister. We are your family. That is school. And I was very involved with school. I remember dropping off my little one, who's now 33, and she would cry. We'd get to school, and she would just start crying. And I sat down, and I had her on my lap, and the yard duty lady said, I'll take her. And I said, no, you won't. I will sit here with her till she gets through this. And she cried for 20 minutes every day for 6 weeks. She'd cry, and then she'd go, I'm okay, Mommy, I can go now. I'd be like, okay, Angelica, go ahead. 6 weeks later, it was over. But that was my job to do. That was not a yard duty's position to do. And that's how I felt about things. Something's going on with my child, I will handle what's going on with my child. So that's something I would say to parents. I don't know what it's like out in Connecticut, but in California, it's kind of the wild, wild west in our public school system. So you got to
Yeah.
really be on top, and I think you should be anyway
I
for
was
your
gonna say,
children.
so I went to public school until second grade. Then I was part of a homeschool tutoring center, so I don't have like first hand experience with public schools because second grade hardly counts, you know. And then my plan is to homeschool my kids because I've heard stories, and I am not interested in chancing anything. Like,
Right.
I have the opportunity. I have, you know, it's possible for me. I know it's not for everybody. But, like you said, like, you know, I don't know how Connecticut is either. But I think that no matter where you are, no matter what school it is, no matter if it's a most prestigious private school or a religious school or a public school or whatever, a parent's attention and interest should be there no matter what. Because at the
You
end of
have
the
to
day,
be.
it's somebody else. And there's a lot of really incredible, wonderful human beings out there. In fact, the majority of them are. A very, very small percentage happen to be really terrible. And it's a very small percentage. But I wouldn't risk my kids being at the adverse, you know, effect of that
Right.
very small percentage of people that are truly evil.
Right. And it was just, I don't know how schools get into these policies, but what I did is once a month, I would go to Costco and I would buy, the different loaves of, I don't know, blueberry cake or whatever the heck they were. I would go in with a box and I would bring it to the front desk and I would just say, thank you so much for all you do. I just made it very aware of who my daughter's mother was. You know, I had the school one time say to me, your daughter, what did they say? Your daughter needs to go to a psychiatrist. And I said, that daughter? And they went, yeah. I said, wow, if that's what you think, she won't be here tomorrow. And she was like, wait. And they called the school called, whoever the guy is that's in charge. I wish I knew these terms, but there was a big meeting and the person in charge of what's going on with children, I walked into a room and there was a bulletin board and all of the different things, what should be happening at this age. And the guy said, so what does she do? And the teacher described what she did, and he goes, okay, but she's like in second grade, right? And the teacher says, yes, she's in second grade. And he goes, okay, and she does this over here too, and the teacher said, yes, she does that too. And he goes, she's in second grade, right? So we went through the whole thing, and the guy was like, there's nothing wrong with this kid at all. And I was willing to go through that process. Because I knew it was absurd. And it turned out that one teacher, I said, I had a problem with the teacher the year before, so I just, I want to make sure we're on the same page. She said, let me look at her testing. Let me just look. And apparently she was so advanced in math. She said, I've never seen a child that advanced in math.
So there must
So
be
I
something
went, okay, math is down.
psychiatrically wrong with her?
I'm sorry?
So because she's good at math, there was something psychiatrically wrong with her?
I don't know what the teacher was thinking. I don't know what the teacher, because this gal has got a very successful business. It was, I do not know. In fact, one of my daughter's very good friends, all of a sudden I saw a change in her personality. And I went to the parent-teacher conference. This was a completely different daughter, and I was like, yeah, this little girl, I've seen a difference. And they said, well, we're medicating her. And I went, why? This little girl? And he goes, please, do not change anything. I cannot take it anymore in this classroom. I have to keep kids so they don't act like this. And I just went, that is not your job to be like that. That is so wrong that you're trying to keep this little girl down. And I went out and I spent hundreds of dollars of vitamins for this little girl. This little girl was so bright. And I understand for teachers, it's, they have 30 some, I don't know what you have in Connecticut, but we've got like 33 kids in a class out here. It's a lot. It's not easy teaching kids, I'm sure it's not, but to medicate children who shouldn't be medicated, I've done everything naturally anyway with my children, but to go down that road because it's easier for the teacher, you're in the wrong profession. You got to change professions if that's how you feel. And unfortunately, I was way too opinionated on certain things, and just I just felt like I had to do what was right for that little girl.
Yeah.
And here she is now. I don't know how many years later. I think she's got 3 children and is doing great.
That's amazing. It's actually interesting that you bring that up. You unlocked a memory that I had forgotten for many, many years. I was very fortunate. So like I mentioned, I was in public school until 2nd grade. And then my parents put me in a very small, like, homeschool tutoring center. At the biggest, we had 30 kids in the entire group. And it was one of my friend's moms put this thing together. She had a curriculum that was really incredible. They used a very specific study technology. I'll put a link to that if anybody's interested. It's very, very revolutionary, I would say. But one of the things that we would do every morning, we got to school, and we had to fill out a form. And the form we had to say how many hours did we sleep, what did we eat for breakfast, what did we have for dinner the night before, and like a couple other things that are like, whatever, just like kid questions, like, if it was the weekend, what was something fun you did over the weekend, like whatever, just to make it interesting.
Right.
But it was interesting because the kids that were having a rough time paying attention, not doing well, not having good grades, whatever, not following with the curriculum like to their grade level, were the kids that whose parents would feed them, Fruit Loops or an Eggo waffle in the morning.
Right. Right.
And for dinner they would have like pizza and a French fry,
Right.
And the teachers, I'm calling them teachers. It was like there was two women who were running the whole thing, and we all had our individualized curriculum and whatever. It was a great program. But they would pull aside the parents and be like, okay, you want your kid to do well? You want your kid to like actually excel and learn and be able to actually have a proper education that like sticks with them? You need to change some things. And so it wasn't for the kids. It was to show the parents like, this is your responsibility. This is important. And whatever that looks like, it doesn't mean that every single kid needs to eat 4 eggs for breakfast. Do you know what I mean? But like,
right.
Your kid also can't be living off of Fruit Loops and French fries. It really impacts on such a huge level development.
Right.
And I don't think people realize that. I think people are starting to kind of wake up to it a little bit more nowadays, but at that time it was not a known thing.
Yeah. The other thing, I don't know what made me even think about this, but the other thing I did with my kids was they weren't allowed to watch TV Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday night. There was no TV on in the house. And my kids are in their 30s. One is, 38. We also didn't have tablets for them to be on. There wasn't a lot of connection to the internet at all. So I can't even imagine what that's like for parents now, but we really kept the TV off. And it's so funny because my daughter is doing that right now for her 7-year-old. And the things she tells me, like she's working on her spelling and all this stuff, and I'm like, really? With what we went through, this is what you're doing? And it's so funny because she's like just like me, which makes me so proud that it went down the chain, and the not TV, I really like that because kids do. When you do see these cartoons, they're weird to me. It's just weird.
My theory, this is my theory. I have seen in passing like clips of sorry, not sorry to anybody who watches or uses these guys, but like Miss Rachel, Blippy
I've heard
these
of that.
days.
I don't know what it, I've heard that name.
So I watch these programs as a full-grown woman, right? My brain has allegedly fully developed. And I watch these things and I feel like a mental person watching them, where I'm like, I can't see this without feeling like a crazy person.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why would I subject my child that I'm trying to like help evolve into like a rational citizen, you know, like a good, smart, normal, not loony person? Why would I put them in front of something that makes me feel like a crazy person? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's just repetition, repetition, and some of these shows, they're like flashing lights and quick moving, and your attention span gets shorter and shorter, and these things are thrown at you, and then they're like weird messages, and there's like weird characters that are
Right.
doing weird things and telling you how bad their parents are, and I'm like, why? So you know my parents, you've met my parents.
I have.
We moved here from Russia when I was 5. We didn't have a TV. That's not true. We had a TV, but we didn't have TV. We had a TV and we had a VHS, you know, a VCR.
Right.
And we had like, I remember DVDs came out and that was cool. And we had like a dozen DVDs in my house. It was like Monsters Incorporated, Finding Nemo, and a couple rom-coms. And that's what I watched. And I'd go to like a friend's house and every now and then I'd watch a show or something. But I was also raised without TV in the house. Like, that's just not how we entertained ourselves.
Right.
And so now here I am, 30, just turned 34, have a 4-year-old, and I, who don't have that as like a habitual thing in my history, I find it so tempting, and it's a temptation that I have to fight, to use the TV more often. I use it once in a while. You know, today I had to cut my boys' hair, and I can't get them to sit still when there's 2 of them in the room and it's just me in the house and I need to cut their hair. I was like, we're watching Magic School Bus, but we're watching Magic School Bus, okay? We're not watching this crazy psycho whatever programming is on the TV these days. So I'm right there with you where I'm like, my kids don't have tablets and they won't. Somebody actually offered to give me a tablet for my kids and I was like, I'll pass, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But I really understand the parents that do, because it's so easy and it's so tempting
It's so
and
much
it's
easier.
so effective. Do you know what I mean? In the sense that it does control your child. Your child doesn't run around the restaurant like a crazy person, you know, while you're waiting for your food if they're glued to the screen, and it's much more manageable. But like, not to compare it to drugs, but a little bit to compare it to drugs, a child who is energetic becomes less energetic when they're given, you know, medication for whatever, hyperactivity or whatever it is. But that child also, you know, finds themselves not having such a thriving existence
Right.
in both of those circumstances.
Right. You know, one thing that we did was we really kept our kids active. I asked a mom that I was just newly married. I wasn't even pregnant yet, and she had really well-behaved children. And I said, "What did you do? I mean, your kids are so good." And she said, "They don't have time to think. They do not have time to think." And there's a gal I'm working with right now who just came over from another country. I don't remember what country it is. And she's just about to put her kids in public school. And she's concerned about that, and rightfully so in California. You know, when my daughter is now 38, I'll just segue for a second. When she was not even in 9th grade, a piece of paper came home that said, "We can put your child on birth control, and there's nothing you can do about that."
I'm sorry, what
So
age
that,
did you say?
and my daughter's now 38, and that happened back then. So that's why I say
Wait,
read
wait,
it
wait,
for
wait, wait,
every
hold
piece
on.
of paper.
At what age?
So she was, what's 9th grade? And she might have been 8th grade. No, I think she was 9th grade. It was definitely high school. So what is that, 14? I don't know. But that was something that I couldn't, and I don't even know why if they could do that, why they even sent it home. But I digress. What I told this mom, and there is some really great things here. We do have in our schools, there are great programs. There's out here, there's AYSO, which maybe it's like that all over the United States. It was soccer. My daughter, who has a horse riding academy, we had horses. We were given a horse and we went down that road, and then we had 3 horses, but they didn't have time to think. I kept them in activities, and there wasn't an opportunity. And I also didn't let them go out and about with people that I didn't particularly like. I controlled that. I was the mother. It didn't really matter. If I felt that it wasn't the best thing for them, it wasn't going to happen. And I think that's important. That's where the difference becomes with, if are you your child's friend, or are you the mother? And to this day, I mean, I love my girls. I love every moment just talking to them on the phone. But I want to be their mom. I don't want to go out and hang out with them socially. And I don't know if that came down from my own mom or what, but I think that being a mother and having them raised in a way that they want to do that for their children, so that their children can be successful. That was something that was just important to me. I always would say, how, if we do this, how is it going to be when you're a mom? Let's think about this, I made my daughter, she wanted Adidas sneakers. Did you guys have, you're my daughter's age, you may not even remember this store. There's a store out here called Payless Shoes.
Oh, I remember Payless.
Payless, you could go in and get a pair of shoes, and the second shoe was half off. My kids could have 2 pair of shoes, and they were cheap, My oldest daughter wanted Adidas sneakers. And I was like, I am not buying Adidas sneakers. They were $60. And so she babysat, and she got 4 pair a year. And she, to this day, the people she babysat for, she does the 2 girls that she babysat at the time. She does their hair, and she does the dad's hair. I can't believe it, but that she has that relationship with them. But she had 4 pair of Adidas sneakers every year that she bought herself. And she's a very successful hairstylist now. It's like, I just wasn't going to hand out Adidas sneakers. I wasn't going to pay $60 for Adidas sneakers,
But
and
how cool is that?
You think it was cool?
It's so cool that you let her solve her own problem. Like, it's a legitimate problem. I want something, mom won't buy it. What am I going to do?
Right. Exactly. I mean, she went to Europe. She's been to Europe 8 times. On the last trip, she went for like 33 days, and she said, I'm moving out. I'm moving out when I get home. I said, honey, you will not have the money to move out. There is no way you will have the money to move out after this trip with what you've done. She came home and she moved out. And she's been out and successful on her own since then. And she paid for all of her trips to Europe. The only thing I helped her do when she went was I got a credit card. She didn't know the limit, but I got a credit card in both of our names for $10,000 in case she had a problem. And I made sure that we had our passports so that if we had to fly to Europe, that we would be prepared and we wouldn't be stuck. That was important to me. But they've had to pay for that stuff, and it's good for a kid to do that because they know they can do that. Do you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's something about competence that really brings out the best in a child, and in an adult too, honestly. You know what I mean? When you're good at something, when you're able to be resourceful, come up with your own solutions, not have to rely on others to solve your problems, there's a sense of pride, there's a sense of self-sufficiency that you can't fake to yourself. You know what I mean? And the opportunities to develop that are going to look different with parents and kids and circumstances, but I would implore people to look for those, and I plan to, and I try to look for those opportunities to help kids figure out how to be particularly resourceful. One example, something that my mom did, I don't even know if she did it on purpose, honestly, I'd like to think she did. I'll ask her. Or if it was just out of necessity. But there was a year where my dad was doing training in another state, and so was my sister. And I was 14. I was 14. And my mom worked 2 full-time jobs.
Wow.
So she was working 9 to 5 at a software company, and she had a night job, a job on the nights and weekends as well. So I would see her Saturday and Sunday nights, and that was it. So she had no time to do silly things like grocery shopping. So what she did, now this is also like, nowadays this wouldn't cut it for a grocery trip, but, think this is, whatever, 20 years ago. So she would hand me $100 bill, and she would say, figure out a ride, do the grocery shopping for the week. Best of luck. And she didn't give me any further directions. And so the first week I went and I was like, I have $100 and I'm going to Stop and Shop. This is great, right? I was out of control. I don't know what I bought. I wish I had kept that receipt. Wouldn't have occurred to me to keep it, but I'd love to see what it was that I bought. I just remember that week, the last 3 or 4 days of the week, we had cereal for pretty much every meal because I did not think it through. And my mom, to her credit, she wasn't like, what the heck were you thinking? She didn't get mad. She was like, well, what did we learn? And I was like, oh, yeah. And she's like, okay, let's talk about coupons and sales and how to make things work and leftovers. And so I started learning how to get creative. And she was like, look, if you can buy the whole week's groceries for $80, then you've got $20 that you can spend on whatever the heck you want at the store. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Sky's the limit, but this is the parameters. You go figure it out. And I had to get creative, and I did. And I started getting interested in cooking, and I was like, how do I make things? And I got a recipe book, and I was all excited about it. And it just became this, I was given some rope, and I kind of went wild with it. And then I had to reel myself in because the consequences were in the very physical, very real universe. You know what I mean?
Right.
And my mom, yes, it was out of necessity where she was like, I don't have time to shop, so you need to help me keep this household running. But at the same time, she did it in such a way that was used it as an opportunity to help me develop skills that to this day are obviously invaluable, where I know how to plan for a week as a wife, as a mother. I am more successful because of that, perhaps silly or, sheerly out of her own necessity, that exercise. And same thing with your daughter and the Adidas. Those are the things that I think shape a person in their adulthood. All these things that maybe you didn't even think about it. You just said no to Adidas because you didn't want to spend $60 on Adidas. I imagine you weren't conniving, planning that this was going to be some character building, thing. And yet I'm sure that if you were to ask her, probably that she would share a similar story to mine where I remember that and I'm that really helped me become some part of the person that I am today.
She has mentioned that so many times, and I look at her and I look at her life, and as a parent, it's also you want to do whatever you can. Oh, could I just hand them $10,000? Well, yeah, I could, but should I? No. Yeah. It's so important. If you handle things for people, you're telling them they can't do it. And that's the worst thing in the world. Mm-hmm. Because they can do it. It's hard. It's hard for a parent, but it's your child's life to live. And my mom was so good at that I really try to keep that in myself. It's important because it's been my life to figure out, and that's why it's so important. It was so important to me to raise my children so they could figure it out. You definitely want your child to figure these things out and not be dependent on you, much as I would love them to call me every day and want to talk to me all day long. And they don't want to do that. They got stuff they're doing, and that is okay with me. It's just okay with me that's happening. Amazing. Because it's important for that to happen for them. I had my time. I'm having my time. it is their time to figure it out. And I think a person is happier when they've done that too, you know, when they know they took care of whatever it was that they needed to take care of, you know?
Yeah. I think that a sense of accomplishment is very necessary to happiness. I think that's a very important component to just being a happy person.
Yeah, and I want my daughters to say to me, hey, I don't want to do it that way. This is how I want to do it. It's so good when that happens because that's their life, do you know? And I was given that lesson myself, so I appreciate that. You know, I appreciate that for them and for me, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a great joy what we get, having this role and having this body and being able to produce those peoples, you know? It's my favorite thing. I have, for lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, I just want to be able to have babies, you know, and have them grow up into peoples, you know?
I totally relate. I've known that I wanted to be a mom since I was 2 or 3 years old, you know, baby dolls and all that. And then in my 20s, I got involved in other things. Nothing bad. I was just busy and, you know, I kind of put it on the back burner. And when I was about 28, I was like, ooh, maybe I should, like, you know, get going on that goal of mine. And so I had my first kid when I was 30. And when I was younger, I had envisioned being a parent in my 20s. And it's interesting because I have no regrets. I am such a better person now than I was then. And I'm not bashing people who want to have kids in their 20s because that can work out great too. Honestly, I just think kids make you a better person no matter what. If your life isn't in the perfect place, you're going to have kids and you're going to become a better person. You're going to become more resourceful and you're going to learn things about yourself and you're going to realize that you have shortcomings that maybe you didn't know you had and you're going to have to learn how to overcome them and get better, and you're going to find resources that are helpful and you're going to find communities of moms who are going through it also and you're going to figure it out together. But above all, like you mentioned toward the beginning, the love that you have and the love that you're capable of having is impossible to put into words until you have kids, I think.
Yeah, it truly, it's remarkable. It's a beautiful thing. And to be a grandmother now, it's so, you know, it's so interesting. It's a very different, like I see different things on TikTok or whatever, you know. You love them because they can go home and, you know, I don't love them because they can go home. I love them because they're lovable. They're just,
Yeah.
kids are just, you know, they're just lovable no matter what, do you know? And if you know, let them be who they are, do you know? It's so important. My granddaughter is totally into crafts. She is into crafts. And I said to my older daughter, I am not the craft grandmother. I'm just not that. And my granddaughter says to me, you know, when we come to your house, we go out. We never stay home. And I take them out, you know. I'm just not the craft grandmother. Now I have crafts for her, but I'm not going to be that one that sits at the table and does all that. My son-in-law said to me, you know, I could bring ornaments you could paint for them. And I just thought, please don't bring the ornaments. Just please don't bring the ornaments. I'm not that person. But if they want to go shopping or they want to go to the zoo or they want to go to Hart Park where there are animals, they want to go to the ranch, I am that grandmother. If you want to go for a walk or a hike, let's go. But please don't give me paint. I'm not going to do that, you know?
But the cool thing is you let them be who they are and they can let you be who you are. Like, what a freaking cool relationship is that? You know?
Yeah, and my granddaughter's other grandmother, she's the craft queen. I'm so happy. She does so many crafts with her, and it's just beautiful. It's a lovely thing that she has that because it's not with me. It's just not with me. I don't have the patience for that. And it's nice that my daughter and my son-in-law, don't put that on me either. Do you
Yeah.
know? Um, it's a funny thing because, you can be opinionated. My daughter can be opinionated about how she wants things done, and I'm just like, oh, really? So I try to be good. I try to be good and follow the rules. But it's very funny when there are rules for me to follow.
So I'm in your daughter's position, and it's so fun. Like, not to say there aren't challenges, but this stage of life is so fun where my parents are my kids' grandparents, right? And I mean, my mom. She's the freaking best, and my dad too. But my mom is like, okay, I'm going to Costco and I want to buy them snacks, but I don't know what you look for because you always are reading the labels, right? And I'm like, and so like she knows what's important to me. We talk about it. It's not like we have like sit down meetings and we like lecture each other on what we think, and you know what I mean? It's a very like free flowing relationship, but she knows that there are things that are important to me. I'm crunchy in, I don't know if you've heard this term of crunchy mama, but like
No. Mm-mm.
it comes from like granola, which is funny because granola is not even that good for you. But like, I don't do medications. I home birthed both of my kids. We don't do vaccines. Like all the things that like it's considered crunchy. Like it's like
Oh, I didn't know
over
that. Okay.
over the top, natural minded, healthy type whatever. Not to say my kids like don't eat any sugar ever, but I tend in that direction. And so she's like, I don't know what your rules are, so you tell me what to do. And then in the opposite direction, sometimes like she sees something and she's like, I have a suspicion that we need to put in a little bit more of a routine in that kid's life because, I noticed such and such and so and so. And I'm very open to her opinions. And sometimes we disagree and whatever, and she's fine with that too, but it's so much fun. Like, they're very involved in my kids' lives. They are amazing. My dad, is like teaching him letters and numbers. They have some computer program that they sit down. That's like their time. My dad is also a computer programmer, so like computer stuff is his forte, and so whatever. My mom is the craft person, like she comes up with all sorts of like fun activities for them. She'll like poke holes in cardboard and, thread pipe cleaners to make something to put beads, and I'm like, I don't know where you come up with this stuff, but like awesome.
Yeah.
And I have my role, and my husband has his thing, and my in-laws have their thing, and it's so great. Like it's such a fun game. This whole thing of parenting is just such a
Yeah.
joy. It's challenging, but it is so much fun.
Well, the one thing I would say, because I'm more the natural compared to my daughter, and I have to tell you that if I could eat Ritz crackers and tuna fish for the rest of my life, I'd be a happy person. I would be so happy. But if you look at Ritz crackers, there is a bioengineered ingredient. So I can no longer eat Ritz crackers. And that whole idea of bioengineered is just, it's over for me. I look at everything. I can't believe, how my daughter sometimes will give the kids stuff. She's getting better about it. I'm surprised because of how she was raised with the food, but at my house, they just don't get that. They can have whatever at their house, but at my house, they don't. There's not going to be bioengineered food in my house. So I don't know have you seen that on the labels, bioengineered?
Yeah, yeah.
You can't eat Ritz crackers. How is this possible? It's
Yeah.
like, it's the best cracker in the whole world, and it's
Yeah.
bioengineered. I bought this huge box, a big box at Sam's Club, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have it. And then I see bioengineered, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just learned about that.
Yeah.
And I find that, we can have the rules at my house. It's very funny. I have a staircase, and my grandson, we have the stupidest gate. It's not even a gate. It's a piece of material because my stairs are weird. And he does not even try to go up those stairs. I don't get it. I'm just like, oh, you can't go up those, honey. He's like, okay. Do you know? So we
Yeah.
just we have rules at my house. how food is going to be, and then we have rules at however I'm going to do things. The only thing is I'm not allowed to do is give too many bottles. I'm in disagreement with that, but I'm following the rules, trying to be a good grandmother. But I think that, I know my daughter trusts me, and that's they're safe with me. I babysit every Saturday. I'm a very good grandmother.
Aww.
That I do that, and I love it. And the kids love their grandfather. It's, I had a great relationship with my grandparents. I think that is so beautiful for children to have grandparents and aunts and uncles that are involved. To have that relationship is just, my grandparents were unbelievable. My parents were unbelievable grandparents to my kids. And I want that to continue, that my grandchildren know, okay, we are loved, and that's what a kid just needs to know. There's enough out there to make a kid wrong. There is enough stuff out there where, they can just be wrong. They need to be right at home, This is their safe places at home.
Yeah. That's really it. I mean, that's what it boils down to, is make your home the place where your kids feel safe. My mom always did that for me. I don't have any problem talking to her about things, even things that should be uncomfortable, I had something happen with a boy once, and she asked me a question, and I told her the truth, and she made a little bit of a face. And then she was like, okay, now what? And I was like, well, and we sorted it through, but it was never like her against me or me against my dad. It was always like, we're all working toward the same goal. We're all working toward the same thing. Not to say there's never any friction or hasn't ever been, but I want to pass that on to my kids too, where we are a team. We are a unit. We are close. We're all working toward the same thing. We're going to help each other. You're going to help me. I'm going to help you, any way we can. And the goal is happy, successful, thriving individuals who are contributing members of society and live a great life and go on to do some awesome stuff.
Yeah, and I think when parents take care of themselves, that helps as well. You can't, or I couldn't be up all night and eating crap and drinking and stuff and then be nice the next day. Parents, they need to, as much as we're taking care of the children, we have to take care of ourselves, so that we have the energy for the next day. Because there's a lot going on, and it makes it easier to be a parent, I think, if you're taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
We have gone over an hour. I just looked up on my little clock, and somehow we have talked for a whole hour. That's amazing.
Well, it was a pleasure talking with you.
It was a joy. This was wonderful. I feel like we covered some really good material. I'm sure we could go on for another hour and find even more to talk about. Perhaps we'll do another podcast another time and talk more. But this was fantastic. I think there was a lot of really useful insight here.
Great. I'm glad. I really enjoyed being here.
Likewise. Well, thank you to everybody joining. Do you have any final words? Anything you wanna close out with?
Just enjoy your children. Just enjoy them. Just enjoy them more. That's it.
I love it. I am taking that advice and I'm going to run with it because
okay.
I agree.
Sounds good.
I think that's what I should do. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody joining. I will see you guys next week with another amazing guest. And don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.